All right. Hello, Spike subreddit. I just wanted to make a quick video kind of talking about the Esper Control deck that I've been testing and put together for Dominaria Standard. I figured just doing a quick YouTube video would be easier than trying to type out all of my thoughts. So we're just going to run through the list real quick. I don't have a sideboard really figured out yet, other than I've been thinking a lot about things like Fragmentize, Forsake the Worldly, stuff like that, because I think Artifact and Enchantment hate are obviously going to be pretty important. There's going to be some sort of Karn Artifact deck. I haven't put it together yet, what it'll look like, but it'll be there, it'll exist, so I think those cards will be important. But besides that, I don't really have too much of an idea of what to do for sideboard. I've been working on pretty much just the main at this point. Maybe a couple duress or something. That'd be kind of cool. But anyway, land 25. I think 25 is the sweet spot for control. I've seen more been run before, 26, 27. To me, I think that's excessive. I haven't had an issue with mana with 25. If I were running maybe an approach deck and I definitely wanted 7 mana all the time, or on turn 7, maybe I would up it a little bit. But I think an Esper approach is not worth it. In blue-white, I think there's an argument to be made for running approach, but I think in Esper the list is just too tight. So anyway, 4 fetid pools, 4 glacial fortress, 4 irrigated farmland, 4 isolated chapel, that's the duels, 5 island, 1 plains, 3 swamp. The mana base, as far as the duels go, I think this is the way to do it. The fetid pools could be drowned catacombs. I think that would obviously, it would come into play untapped most of the time. And I will say, through my testing, I've rarely been cycling lands. It does come up, it does happen, but I think 9 times out of 10 I get a land, I want to play it. So those could be drowned catacombs. It's going to be something I'm going to have to work with to see which one really is more useful. Same deal with concealed courtyard. I've got isolated chapel instead, because I don't think you need any more than 4 white-black duels. I think having the blue is more important. So I think you only need 4 white-black. I think you would be running either isolated or concealed. Or I guess maybe you could do a 2-2 split, I don't know. But I'm choosing to go with just isolated, because 9 times out of 10 this thing comes in untapped. Especially, that's the kind of the nice thing about the fetid pools and the irrigated farmlands, is that they're plains island and island swamp respectively. So isolated chapel, same thing with glacial fortress, they have no problem coming in untapped. They're gonna come in untapped pretty much all the time. So that's what I've got for mana. Like I said, a little bit up in the air. Drowned catacombs maybe instead of fetid pools. Concealed courtyard, I'm pretty confident isolated chapel is the right move here instead of concealed, but something to discuss. We'll move over to enchantments next. Enchantments, I've got 2 seal away, 2 search for Escanta. I think 2 search is the number to play for this. Seal away, I don't know if I want more than 2 of in the main deck. It's a great card. I love it when I had it. When I draw it, I very rarely say, geez, I don't want this. My concern is that it does only hit tapped creatures, and if Seal Away becomes a staple in the format for white decks, you're not going to see people swinging in with their Scarab Gods. You already really don't see it too much, but I think if Seal Away becomes a big thing, you're going to see it even less. And when people start to expect to Seal Away, it's possible to play around. So the potentially cast out becomes better. It's 2 more mana, but it hits pretty much anything, and it cycles away if you really don't need it. So I don't know. Maybe there's room for both. At this point, I'm choosing to do just the sealaways, partly because I want to test them as extensively as possible. But right now, I'm liking the sealaways for sure. Creatures, pretty standard. Scarab God, Torrential. I've been tooling around with maybe bringing in a Lyra, Dawnbringer. Baneslayer Angel is good. I'm not necessarily sure if the deck needs another way to close the door, and if it did, I'm not sure that I wouldn't rather just put more Scarab Gods in, or maybe another Teferi or something. I'm not sure that Lyra as like a singleton is better than just putting more of my other threats in. Is my thinking on it. But I don't know. We'll see. Sorceries, only running the 2 Fumigates. This could be 3. I'm not too sure about 3. I think 2. Right now I'm doing 2 and 2, Settle and Fumigate. I've seen people doing 5, the 5 Wrath situation. 3 Settle, 2 Fumigate, or 3 Fumigate, 2 Settle. I haven't found that to be super necessary. Maybe if tokens becomes a huge thing, but then I would say maybe even just sideboard the extra Fumigate. I don't know. But I'm on 2 right now, and I like it. Next up is Planeswalkers, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. This card's gas. It's one of the best Planeswalkers, for control that I've seen in a long, long time. This thing does everything I want it to do and more. And if I were to increase a threat, this would be the threat that I would want to increase, I think. Going up from 2 to maybe 3 Teferi. The +1 draws a card. I've been in so many situations where I've played Teferi on turn 5, which, like, playing a Planeswalker the turn you have enough mana for it should be like a risk. It should be like, okay, I'm putting my shields down now, and my opponent has a turn to do what they want, potentially even kill my Planeswalker, whatever. But with Teferi, that's not the case. Teferi, you play him turn 5, you draw a card, and you untap 2 lands. So you've got your, let's just see, you've got your Essence Scatters up, you've got Fatal Pushes up, you've got Moment of Craving, Cast Down, Seal Away. You have so many options after playing that Teferi turn 5 that it's insane. It's so good. It's I can't overstate. I think Teferi is the real best card in Dominaria. I don't think it's Karn. I think it's Teferi. The -3 again, just spinning it 3 from the top. That's guaranteed removal. Like it gets rid of Hazarets. It gets rid of Scarab Gods. All of the big ticket threats that you want to get rid of that are normally difficult to remove, Teferi gets rid of. Granted, if you do it when you drop it, it's down to 1 loyalty, but still, worst case scenario, you did a 1-for-1 to get something off the board that was definitely going to kill you. So, and again, with a control deck too, when they go to try to replay it, assuming the game even goes 3 more turns after that, when they go to replay that card, there's a pretty good chance you'll have a counter ready for it. It's coming at that point. So, Teferi is easily the biggest boost control has gotten for standard. So, moving on to the meat of the deck. Got our instance. I'm trying out a couple cast downs. Been liking it so far. Doomblade is a good card. I'll be interested to see in the meta if like a Legends deck becomes tier 1, because then I think obviously cast down gets a lot worse. But it's tough to say right now. I've been testing it, and against the decks that are currently like tier 1, it's really good. It gets rid of problem creatures. I particularly liked this card against the Sultai counters deck. Just knocking out Verdurous Gearhulks, knocking out big walking ballistas, stuff, forcing them to spend those counters at an inopportune time was definitely helpful. And then 3 Disallow, the ratio on disallow has always been something that has caused me a lot of grief. I think 4 is too much. I really don't like running only 2 disallow though, because it's such a good hard counter. I think maybe 3 is the right number, but I honestly, I keep fluctuating with it. Really, a lot of the instance, this is where all of the changes happen, I think. I've got 4 Essence Scatter right now and no negates. I think looking at today's standard right now, I think 4 Essence, 0 negate is the right call. Obviously, once Dominaria becomes legal, any number of things could change there. But right now, I think 4 Essence Scatter is correct. 3 Fatal Push, pretty obvious, kills, early creatures. The reason it's not 4 is because I like the idea. I like the idea of being able to get rid of any creature with Essence Scatter, and I like Moment of Craving for the life gain. So that's why I'm not running 2 Moment of Craving for Fatal Push. I think the life gain is more relevant than people give it credit for, especially against decks like Mono Red, things like that. 4 Glimmer. The Glimmer hieroglyphic debate, I think it's pretty. I think if you're not running Approach, I think Glimmer is the clear winner. Like I don't think there's any reason to be running hieroglyphic in a deck that isn't also running Approach. If you're running Approach, for sure, 4 hieroglyphic, but I think in this deck, since we're not doing Approach, Glimmer of Genius is a pretty clear winner. Scrying 2 and then drawing 2 filters so much better than just drawing 2. Yeah, that's a pretty clear one, I think, in my book. But then 2 Settle, like I said, 2 Settle, 2 Fumigate, the Wraths. Tokens are going to be a thing in Dominaria, I think. These numbers could change depending on how prevalent the tokens become. Could do more, could do a little less, but I like the 2-2 split for right now. Vraska's Contempt, pretty obvious. Just gets rid of problem cards, no questions asked, planeswalkers, creatures, doesn't matter, and it gains you a little bit of life. I'm only running 2, and I will admit part of that is because it's $15 a piece. But even if it wasn't a pretty expensive rare, I don't think I'd be running more than 3. Maybe I'd go up to 3 and drop a Moment down to 2, but honestly, having the 2 in the deck plus 2 Torrential Gearhulk to bring it back sometimes, I haven't found myself wanting more. But again, it's difficult to really nail down the ratios in the instant category here, because obviously I don't know what the Dominaria meta is going to look like. And if it becomes if a Super Friends deck becomes I don't think it will, but if it does, obviously Vraska's would maybe go to be a 4 of, getting rid of Planeswalkers, gaining some life. But as of right now, I've been liking 2 against the current meta decks. I think 2 is fine. But again, I would say the meta as it sits right now is decently aggressive, so a lot of times that early game interaction with Moment, Fatal Push, Essence Scatter, things like that, Cast Down, are more meaningful than a Vraska's. But we'll see what happens. That could change. Maybe board down here. I just have one thing. I just have Censor. I don't in Esper Control, I don't think Censor has a place necessarily in the deck. I think there's just too many other good guaranteed answers that we could be running instead of Censor, which it cycles away, and that's fine. But I think having the guaranteed answers in the 2-drop spot in terms of Moment of Craving, in terms of Cast Down, in terms of Essence Scatter, is it cheeky to hold on to a Censor until turn 8 and then censor your opponent when they tap out for something massive? Absolutely it is. The cheeky Censor is always fun, but I don't think that it necessarily does enough. I'm of the same opinion on Opt, which I'm not running any of in the main, and that was a difficult cut for me, but I really do think that when you open yourself up to 3 colors like this, there's so many good answers and so many good interactions you want to be running. I don't necessarily think cantripping is what I want to be doing on my early turns. I think I want to be holding up Fatal Push mana. I want to be holding up Moment of Craving mana, things like that. I don't want to be, on turn 2 playing 1 mana for an opt and then not having the mana to do, a cast down or what have you. So that's where I'm at. Thanks for if you made it through this. I know it's a little rambly, but thanks for listening. And I look forward to seeing what you guys think down in the comments. So thanks a lot.